Well,
and thank you.
I tell you, what's happening in Flint is a horror story playing out at a national level in the most unimaginable way. And my heart goes out to the victims of Flint. We've been privy, unfortunately, to seeing government dysfunction leading much of the problem in Flint. I'm happy to report that we don't have government dysfunction here in New York. Certainly starts with the governor. Governor has set dramatic expectations for state agencies to work as one. This is one government at the state level. There's no distinction as far as the public is concerned between a DOH and a DEC or Parks or any other agency. And frankly, there's no distinction between the state agencies and federal agencies and local agencies. We all have to work as one, and we're trying hard to do so. Public's trust in government has to be earned. We're working hard to earn that trust, and we are being as responsive as we can to understand problems across the state, not just with drinking water, but with air quality and many other problems that beset the population. So it's a priority of mine. A priority of mine to be responsive, priority of mine to think ahead and get ahead of problems. I'm going to do that as acting commissioner, as long as I'm acting commissioner. And I know my colleagues in government are going to have the same approach to these problems.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Senator.
Mr. Chairman.
Assemblyman. Next, Assemblywoman Fahey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome. Thank you. I have a couple of questions, but just a few comments, and I want to start with really commend the governor, commend you on the work on climate change. It's been incredibly encouraging. I, too, was at Columbia for the announcement and look for more. I also appreciate your comments on workforce, because not only is it good for the environment, but I do believe it will truly, truly help our workforce, and the sooner we can train more workers, and the more we can train, the better it is as well for particularly for those less skilled or more at-risk youth. These are good jobs that can't be exported. So look forward to seeing more the work in the environment and on energy with climate change. EPF funding, best news that I had earlier this year. Very encouraging, and I want to just echo the, yes, thank you. Want to echo the comments on the air monitoring. That's very important, particularly here. As you know, the oil trains are a big issue, and would like to follow up with you when my time is not so short on the oil spill fund, but the air quality monitoring is of critical importance. Brownfields remediation, also want to note that, because that is a critical, it's critical to economic development. The water and water infrastructure, wastewater, I want to echo the comments of many today, particularly of Member Otis. And I too have seen the $36 billion figure. It's great that the governor has added to the money that we put in last year, but clearly the demand is out there, and of course, because of the horrific news out of Flint, water has gotten renewed attention, and the mayor of Troy was here the other day testifying that some of the pipes in the city there date back to 1860. And by the way, that was not the one that burst. 1860. So we know our infrastructure needs a lot of work. Two questions. Staffing. I know we've talked a little bit about that today. It does remain a concern because it comes up on a number of issues. Can you talk a little bit more about how you are addressing the staffing needs and some of the delays that we've heard on a few issues? And particularly, can you, I understand there was a staffing shift to a rehabilitation and improvement group, or staffing increase of over 100 staff into rehabilitation improvement. Can you explain what the shift is?
Okay, certainly. I can start at least with staffing needs. I mean, sure. I approach staffing needs through one primary prism. Are we protecting the environment in New York State? And I have to look at what the indicators are telling me, what the vital signs are telling me. What's our air look like? What's our water look like? And I'm heartened by the improvements we've made on both those fronts. I mean, it's really due to our collective efforts that water and air are improving. So I can tell you that we're meeting our mission right now. We're doing a lot. We've got an incredibly dedicated staff that really work heaven and earth. And you should have seen them last weekend with the snowstorm in Long Island. It wasn't just DCOs and Rangers. It was people in Albany and across the state who were pitching in. So we're meeting the mission of protecting New York State's environment and its people. I can transfer you over to Jeff, perhaps, that can answer the question on the shift. Do you have an answer on that, Jeff?
Yeah, it's basically moving staff to capital staff who are performing capital functions to capital funds. It's a technical change. It's not an increase in staff.
It's just a technical change, then not a programmatic shift
No, they're continuing
in terms
the
of
same functions.
same functions. Okay, all right, it was one that came up. Second and last question, the pipeline. Again, you heard questions on a number of pipelines. The one that most impacts the 109th district here is the Northeast pipeline, or the Kinder Morgan. There are a number of concerns, although we're also impacted by the Thruway pipeline, the proposed there. Can you just talk a little bit about? It is of concern. We've written about this. I know when time isn't as short, we'll want to run up, but health and safety, how you plan to prioritize what some of the review process is for reviewing this, and I say that as somebody who is very seriously concerned.
Understood. The Northeast Energy Direct proposed pipeline, that application is a FERC pipeline, but it came to us in application. We sent the application back because it was incomplete, and that's certainly an application process that it will play out over time. On the Pilgrim pipeline, that's the Pilgrim pipeline you asked about. This is the proposed pipeline on the Thruway Authority corridor running north-south. We have requested and been given, or proposed at least, DEC and Thruway Authority joint review, seeker status, lead agency status on this. The seeker process will play out on it. We will have both agencies working we propose to have both agencies working in concert to ensure that the public's safety is protected, to ensure the environment is protected, as we do on every seeker review.
Thank you, Commissioner, and again, that will be of paramount importance to us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I want to reflect on staffing levels and enforcement. I make note of the fact that your staffing levels have dropped significantly over, say, the last 15 years. And reflecting on two things, your comments about this being one government, and to everybody in the world, it's not separate agencies, it's one government. And also on the governor's initiative to encourage municipalities to have shared services. And I'm wondering if you have given some thought with your peers to consolidating in-field regulatory reviews. So, for example, farms are regulated by DEC, DOL, DOH, and Ag and Markets. And it certainly would streamline things for the farmer, and I imagine it would streamline resources for the state if a field inspector from any given agency could serve the purpose of collecting data and reporting for all agencies that regulate that particular business. Could you comment on that?
Well, I will say, Assemblywoman, that my good friend Pat Hooker and Commissioner Ball, we talk quite a bit about how to streamline inspections. There is quite a bit of overlap. It's the idea of sharing each other's services is something that the governor has always encouraged of us to think, outside the box and think, creatively about how to get the job done. And we're willing to do that across the board. And we actually have a number of lean projects underway at DEC, 17 total, that can help us explore some of those. So certainly on permitting inspections. That's going to be one of my focuses, is in just making us more nimble.
Fantastic. I applaud you for that and encourage you, and certainly would look forward to hearing more about that.
Thank you.
Also thinking about technology as a way to automate the collection of data, and particularly thinking about things like runoff and rainwater counts and that sort of thing. I think technology can be our friend here
Agreed.
in helping to streamline the inspection and enforcement process.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Are you finished?
Yes.
Yes, oh, thank you. Assemblywoman Hooper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner. I will be brief. I represent a community in Freeport, Long Island, wherein is located a state armory and has been vacated. It is located in a community about 36 inches from a residential area where families have lived there for several years, and also located on a sensitive nature reserve where endangered species flourish. To place a public works department and a waste transfer station in this area would require maintenance of large equipment, cleaning, and the runoff of contaminated waste into this very sensitive area. Strangely, the only element that proposes placing this site in this community, no one of this element reside in that community. And the community is peopled 100% by minorities. My question to you and my request to you is, how would you protect and address this potential destruction of such pristine and vulnerable, environmentally challenged site, especially when FEMA has already provided $17 million to mitigate the former DPW site, which was compromised by Storm Sandy?
Well, Assemblywoman, thank you for bringing this to my attention. I'm not aware of this site. I'd be happy with my regional team and my exec team to discuss it with you. From a solid waste, wastewater perspective, environmental justice concerns, we have the team ready to better understand the concerns that are being presented. So let's schedule something if we can. If you'd get in touch with me through Julie here, I'd love to do that.
Thank you kindly. We shall definitely reach out to you because we don't want to lose any more pristine, sensitive, natural preserves. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblyman Comiskey.
It's almost good afternoon, Commissioner. I'd like to talk to you about the Bay Park outfall pipe.
Sure.
Last year, I had a similar exchange with your predecessor, and there was, some back and forth about trying to get federal resources for it, and here we are a year later, and I'd like to know if we're any closer to achieving the necessary funding and the wherewithal to have an outfall pipe, and what the general plan is as you see it to get from start to finish to make that a very important project a reality.
Assemblyman, I can echo what may have been said last year. We remain committed to getting the Bay Park outfall pipe constructed. I think we're closer than ever at this point. We have $150 million of state commitments on the table, in addition to $41 million of EFC financing lined up. We're negotiating a consent order with the county at this point, which will establish their obligations to comply with water quality standards and to comply with the reconstruction of their plant and this pipe. We have turned over every rug, looked under every rug for money. We have $5 million in this year's budget to help with the construction of the pipe, and I can say that we're very close to it at this point.
What is the county's position as you see it vis-a-vis the consent order? How
Well,
have they approached it?
Well, I know the county wants to get this done also, and to their credit, they have committed to install interim nitrogen removal at the plant this year. They've made that public, and the two projects that they proposed will go a long way to reducing nitrogen that's produced by the plant. So we're at the table. I can't characterize the tenor of the discussions other than to say that we have a very good dialogue going on, and I know that they want to get to where we want to get also.
Has there been any consideration of sending some Suffolk sewage to Nassau plants that have the capacity and using New York money that's supposed to go for Suffolk sewage to then be used toward the project? Is that an idea that's been considered?
County Executive Mangano actually mentioned that to me a few days ago, and I saw him down on Long Island. We're certainly always willing to entertain any creative solutions like that. I mean, that would be a discussion that the two county executives need to have together and figure out if there's a path forward there, and we'd like to be supportive if we can.
Okay. Why, can you answer why no surplus money, state surplus money, has been dedicated toward the outfall pipe? What thinking or discussion might have gone into that?
Well, I can say that the EPF increase this year, $123 million worth, is funded through the state surplus that we have. So we've, as I mentioned, programmed $5 million of that to go towards the outfall pipe.
Right. I guess this is an appropriate pun, but that's kind of like spit in the ocean in a $500 million project. I mean, in other words, if this thing is going to happen, who do you see having to step up in absence of, I guess, the state wanting to say this is going to be our project, which it looks like is what we're looking at?
Well, bear in mind, we have almost $1 billion of state and federal money that we've directed to the plant to make sure that it both had been rebuilt after Sandy, and now that we've committed to make sure the Bay Park outfall actually happens. The additional $41 million of EFC financing and the $5 million this year that we're going to award through settlement funds in the EPF demonstrates a substantial commitment from the state to make sure it happens. We're going to find a way to get there. The county's going to have to step up and help find the balance.
Okay. And you agree that this is a vital project?
I would agree that this is the vital project on Long Island for water.
I appreciate that. And lastly, where I live down on the barrier island of Long Beach Island, the Army Corps project that you will oversee or do oversee is of critical importance. We realized just before the storm the other day that we're not really much in a different position than we were the day after Sandy happened, and I just want to get your take as to whether that is still on track and is still something that you think will come to fruition on target.
Well, the good news is that we finally reached the agreement with the Army Corps this year, in fact, just a few weeks ago. And I expect that we will be putting out to bid the work that needs to be done, and the construction will start this year.
That's great.
If not earlier.
Okay, I look forward to working with you on that, and I've asked
Likewise.
your agency to put on a presentation for the people on the barrier island who, I think after Sandy, have reconciled themselves to the fact that the nature of our beach must change, but obviously the more information they can get would be the better. So I would really welcome that, and thank you for your cooperation on this really vital project.
Thank you. I look forward to working with you on this.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you. Assemblyman Abenati.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome. Thank you for
Thank you.
joining us today.
Thank you.
I have a couple of topics that have been touched on, but I'd like to pursue a little bit further. One of them is DERA. I know that Senator Hoylman has discussed it with you, and your response was that most of the state vehicles are now at a point where they would meet the standard. But my understanding is that this law would also impose certain obligations on private contractors who do business with the state, correct?
That's right.
So that's a piece that we're missing right now. Do we know what percentage of the contractors who do business with the state meet the DERA requirements?
I think it's considerably lower, and I can get you the exact numbers, but I believe it's considerably lower.
I think that's an important piece because the logic of this is that once you get contractors to upgrade their equipment to deal with the state, they're not going to take that upgrade off when they're doing private work.
Understood.
So we're kind of raising the bar for the entire industry.
Right.
And I know that downstate, Westchester County, we did it. I think New York City's done it, and I'm not sure, but I think both Nassau and Suffolk have done it. So they've upgraded all of their own equipment and also have required those who do business with them to upgrade the equipment. But downstate, we can't do it alone. I mean, air pollution travels everywhere, and so we really need everybody to jump in on this. And I think the wisdom of those who passed this law long before I got here is becoming more evident every day. So I compliment your department's concern about climate change and polluted air, but I do hope that we could work together this year to make sure that what should have happened in 2010 actually happens this year.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
The second issue is a little bit more local, but it is a statewide problem, and that is stormwater flooding. I know throughout the entire state, I hear from my colleagues that their communities are underwater after a storm. In Westchester County, we have some very significant problems. I just want to talk about my district, which is symbolic of what's going on throughout all of Westchester. We have the Sawmill River, and we've talked about it for years. I had meetings with the Army Corps of Engineers when I was a county legislator 6 years ago, and they said they could put up money but have no partners. Is there any way that we can get some money into this budget to partner with the Army Corps of Engineers to do the work we need to do on the Sawmill River Parkway and on the Hutchinson River Parkway and the Bronx River Parkway and all of the other roads? I say parkways, but basically the rivers are flowing onto the parkways and creating havoc. And from a monetary point of view, DOT is spending a lot of money raising the Sawmill River Parkway every time the Sawmill River floods. And so we're wasting money on a temporary solution that 2 years later we have to redo. If we could just put the money into fixing the river in the first place, we might be saving money and saving a lot of grief and havoc to a lot of homeowners and businesses.
Something I can feel your pain. I've been stuck on the sawmill many times. We do have money in the budget this year, as we do every year, to deal with priority watershed issues. The WQIP line, that's a water quality improvement program line of the EPF. It's a competitive program. It's $10 million this year, and we would certainly encourage folks in your district to apply for funding to help control flooding issues on the sawmill. I mean, it strikes me that that would be a more than eligible type of a grant that could be made.
I appreciate that. It just sounds like such a small amount of money for what is really a statewide problem. Is there any way that we could talk about taking a little bit more money from the settlements in a one-time fund dedicated to dealing with stormwater management and flooding? I know in Westchester County, for example, we passed a law that requires the county to survey all of the watersheds and identify those places where the money should be spent. It would be best spent. And that kind of a plan might work statewide. And then if we could put some money into it, we might be able to solve some of these problems.
Well, I can certainly take your request back, and we can work strategically with you to figure out what parts of the EPF might be able to help, frankly. I mean, there is the climate account as well, that there may be some appropriate investments that could be made out of that to help reduce the impacts from flooding and also just increase the vegetative space.
Thank you. And I just have a piece of legislation, a non-budget, that I'd like to call your attention to. We've been trying to limit idling throughout the state by motor vehicles and maybe even diesel engines, which really contributes heavily to the air pollution problem. And I would hope that somewhere along the way we could talk and maybe get your support for it. It works in Westchester. People
more
love
than
it.
have my support for it. In fact, you know, our ECOs typically once or twice a year around the state will set up idling campaigns. We'll go to hot spots where you see trucks idling on a regular basis, or perhaps being non-compliant trucks coming through regions, period. So we have in mind a few spots this year. I'd be happy to work with you on any intel you can provide us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And to close now, Assemblyman Engelbart.
You have done very well for your inaugural before us.
Still time left, right?
I have a brief question regarding the Part 360 Long Island mulch facilities issue. The governor, when he issued his veto message last year, indicated the department would be releasing new Part 360 regulations by February 28th. and that justified the veto because you were going to do this instead. So are those regulations which relate to solid waste issues still on track to be released on February 28th? Within that context, does the budget include any Part 360 implementation monies?
The answer is yes. My staff is sleepless, and getting the 360 regs done, we'll have those out by the 28th.
And are there any implementation monies in the budget?
There are no implementation monies in the budget for Part 360 regs, but remind you that the regs are going to go out for public comment when we release them. Not sure we put a timeline on the comment period, but at least 90 days, I would think, and then that's got to go through the rulemaking process throughout the course of the year. We're going to get it done this year. We can think creatively about how aspects of the Part 360 regs may need funding. And certainly come to you next year, think about how we can work together to make sure that that account is funded.
Well, we appreciate your testimony this morning and your offer to all of us one issue at a time to work through these issues together on behalf of the people of the state. Thank you for your presentation, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Acting Commissioner Sagos. We appreciated your time today,
Thank you, Chairwoman.
and now you can leave.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next presenter will be Rose Harvey, Commissioner of the Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation.